Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome back to a professional match of StarCraft 2. Now what I've got for you today is a best of 7 series of Protoss versus Zerg that was recently played as a qualification match for the Esports World Cup. A $1 million tournament that will be taking place in the near future. Alright, we're in game number 1 in the bottom left hand corner, playing with the blue Zerg drones. We have none other than SHIN, of course from South Korea, and his opponent in the top right, playing with the red Protoss pieces from Germany. We're looking at ShoWTimE's main Nexus. Now where is that, where is that drone going? Apparently we're starting off on Dynasty. The only reason why we're starting on Dynasty is because this is a best of 7. This is one of those maps that usually it gets vetoed. Looks like ShoWTimE is gonna be running a probe on over in this direction as well. So I have to see if he decides to respond with, for example, a Forge. First Overlord is not gonna scout it, so it could certainly happen. It's ShoWTimE though. I think ShoWTimE will probably let it slide because, well, it's ShoWTimE and he likes playing very macro-focused games, but there is certainly an opportunity here for him to be aggressive. It looks like he will be deciding to maybe attack it with like Adepts or something along those lines, but nothing all too crazy here early on. So for the Esports World Cup, basically, the players qualified, they have either accumulated enough points throughout this competitive season, or they have won premier events, right? So players like, for example, Serral, they managed to qualify for this tournament, I think 3 or 4 times in total, meaning that there were some extra seats still available. And it turns out this tournament is the last opportunity for players to qualify for the entire event. Now, if you're a fan of ShoWTimE, if you're a fan of SHIN, it is nice to note that both of these players actually managed to qualify. I was a little bit confused why they even played a grand finals, but it turns out it was a double elimination qualifier where the loser of this particular best of 7 series, they ended up taking down Bunny 4-0 to still qualify for the Esports World Cup as well. So it is kind of nice to note that both of these players will ultimately make it to the event. I'm especially excited to see another Protoss, because overall, Protoss has, well, not got nearly as many players, it seems, at the highest level. So I really do hope that ShoWTimE is going to be able to show us some good results. And obviously, I know there's a lot of German fans out there. It's always nice to see a German player doing really, really well. I'm sure there's a lot of Korean fans out there too, okay? But I would probably guess, like, I don't know, more than half of the competitors will probably be from South Korea. Stargate opener here from ShoWTimE. I am expecting that this is going to be his go-to pretty much every single game. ShoWTimE, of course, stock standard, very macro-focused. In general, a pretty difficult style to play in a longer series. So in a best of 7, I've got a feeling that, yeah, we may be here for some time, because ShoWTimE is certainly somebody who will prefer expanding over actually finishing the game and taking a risk, right? He enjoys just macroing up and constantly building more stuff, rather than actually taking big chances. Totally fair way to play. Just means that I hope you got yourself a drink ready. I'm already out of coffee, but I have a large bottle. I have like 2 liters of water over here. We should be good. Alrighty, so where exactly are we going to be sending this Oracle? Do we send it to the golden minerals? Do we go into the main base? Do we go to the natural expansion? Probably not that last option. Overlord is scouting right now too, and will indeed see that this is a very normal build. ShoWTimE not opting to go for the in-base gold, for example. That is something you can always do. There's already quite a few lings available. But I don't think this is honestly very good for, yeah, for SHIN. SHIN not really achieving much there with those links, and it's actually putting him a little bit behind as far as the economy goes. Golden minerals, of course, do return a little bit more cash, but it is important to not overvalue how many resources you really get out of a base like this. The main advantage of golden minerals in this game is, well, you get the minerals a little bit quicker with less drones, right? So for golden bases in StarCraft 2, the gold standard is to have 6 mineral fields. Whereas for a regular base, you have 8. So these minerals, the blue ones, they return 5 minerals a trip. The golden minerals return 7 minerals a trip. So you do get quite a nice boost in income when you have a low amount of workers. But I think the advantage can be nullified with a few chrono boosts. Or, well, for example, if the Zerg makes an additional group of Zerglings, right? You can justify a lot of these early games quite easily as Protoss. So I think that's the reason why ShoWTimE has decided not really to commit to it. Although this is something, though, that SHIN is going to be struggling against if he would be doing this against, for example, like a hero or even MaxPax. MaxPax has been cannon rushing bases like this as well, relatively early on into the game. Looks like we're cutting another corner here. SHIN does not yet have a Baneling Nest. He does not yet have a Roach Warren. Instead, he's going straight into Hydras. And this is a bit of a weakness in ShoWTimE's play, I oftentimes think, because even though he's technically safe against everything, when you don't cut any corners and you're going up against a greedy player, it can backfire very, very easily. When your opponent is trying to play very risky, you may just have to take some calculated risks yourself as well. Now, this is good, though, here for ShoWTimE. Killing a good number of drones. The Oracles didn't really achieve too much, but honestly, going up to like 2 digits worth of worker kills here is really quite nice. That now makes a grand total of 14 for only 5 adepts. The follow-up here is going to be Archon Zealot. So ShoWTimE will be going into an Archon Zealot charge attack, which is going to hit very hard. Without Banelings, I think SHIN honestly might be dead. Obviously, his bases are still disconnected too, so Hydraling is very powerful. It deals a lot of damage, but it has very little sustain. I think if ShoWTimE decides to commit to a full-on attack, it's going to be 8 gateways. We're going to see Archons, we're going to be seeing Zealots. Zealots will have the +1 ground attacks too, which allows them to 2-shot Zerglings rather than 3-shot them. I mean, if you can catch these Hydras off creep, I think ShoWTimE has the game in the bag. Let's see though. A couple of nice stasis wards. Ooh, he doesn't notice. Okay. This is buying time and gives him some vision. There's the Zealots already. No, don't expand, bro. I think you just go kill him now, ShoWTimE. I think you kill these Hydras and then you kill the Zerg. I think that's the plan. He's obviously thinking about making a Nexus, though, because that's what he likes to do. Beautiful game 1 here, though, by the German Protoss. SHIN, of course, by the way, in case that's a nickname that doesn't ring a bell, he used to go under the idea of Ragnarok for many years. One of Korea's very best Zergs. He decided to change his nickname. ShoWTimE kills the army, he kills the economy, and then he still takes a 4th base. That may honestly make this push very difficult for him to execute, because he's going to be pushing whilst also expanding to a 4th base, while Zerg is still on only 3 hatch. He doesn't really need to be attacking if he's expanding here, but maybe the advantage is big enough. He's got a lot of energy on those Oracles as well. Queens are going to try and see if they can potentially kill this. Yeah, the only way in which SHIN is going to be able to hold this is if ShoWTimE decides to take an expansion and actually make a bunch of probes and get +2 and all that. But it looks like even then, he's not going to have enough stuff. GG. Alrighty. Clean game 1 right there from ShoWTimE. Not really making any mistakes. Not really cutting any corners. Just going for really the most conventional opener you can play as Protoss. This was a push with Oracles and then also with a bunch of Adepts. And SHIN just sort of died. It's gonna be a nice feeling here. Maybe SHIN messed up. Well, he certainly did. But I can imagine if you're ShoWTimE right here, you're like, wait, I just did like the build order I practice every single day in and day out. This is what I keep doing every single one of my matches. And this guy just lost to like 3 Oracles and 5 Adepts, right? I mean, obviously he lost to the follow-up attack, but that was ultimately what set ShoWTimE up for the win. It's gonna be a nice start. Now, post-youth is a lot more normal. Still weird. But at least in the grand scheme of things, it's not quite as awkward as the map we just came from. Dynasty in general seems to force a lot of these strange playstyles and a lot of these strange build orders. It's funny how post-youth is actually quite normal. When we first saw this map, I think everybody was a little confused by it, because it really feels like a 2 versus 2 map, and we have 2 ramps leading into the main base, and then an easy to take gold base, and the 3rd on that side feels ages away, 3rd on the other side feels like it's... And then, yeah, ultimately, the games we see on this map, they are fun, but they are fundamentally normal. Putting the fun in fundamental. Oh, no, okay, no. That sounds like a really boring company. Yeah, if your company has a slogan that goes along the lines of putting the fun in fundamental, you should probably quit. Yeah. Anyways, we don't really see this map as much anymore as we used to. I feel like when this map pool was first introduced, this was the map that we saw quite frequently. A lot of players were picking this in best of 3s. But nowadays it seems like it's Oceanborn, Site Delta, and then anything else. Anything else. I'm sure we're gonna see Oceanborn and Site Delta as well, though. Stargate opener once again for ShoWTimE. I'm assuming we'll see triple Oracle. I'm not expecting really to see any Void Ray builds or, for example, double Stargate Phoenix. Very uncommon currently. But I just don't really see ShoWTimE doing that. My main problem, I guess, is that ShoWTimE is quite a predictable player. Like, when you know ShoWTimE is playing a series, I think everybody knows the style you're gonna expect. And obviously the pro gamers, they will know everything, right? They will know exactly what to expect. So, yeah, that is something that can be abused. It's kind of like the style that Innovation used to play for many years, where everybody knew, okay, Innovation is going to be playing macro, right? The least innovative style. Serral had that going for himself as well for some time, where he was just always that big macro man. Not really taking any risks, not really mixing it up all too much. Protoss has a lot of tricks, so I'm hoping we're going to see some of that as well from ShoWTimE, because winning a best of 7 playing the same macro game is, yeah, not a very reliable way to really achieve anything. 335 on that Nexus. So this is actually ShoWTimE mixing it up. Yeah, this is ShoWTimE having a wild day. So rather than going for the second Oracle first, rather than going for the second Gateway first, he decided to build the third Nexus. So this is ShoWTimE cutting some corners. It's insignificant in the... You know, like the game is gonna look mostly the same, but this is going to give ShoWTimE a nice little boost. And I don't think really SHIN, he's not scouting much. He's seen the Nexus right now, I guess, but he doesn't really... I don't think he's gonna be able to do much about this. The map obviously is quite long, it takes a while to get across. So this is the type of stuff that I think ShoWTimE looks at. He's like, yeah, this is a big mix-up. To be fair, it would be very risky on, for example, a Site Delta. The way that you can wall off your high ground base over here easily without really getting into trouble allows you to skip one of those structures. Okay, Roach Warren coming up. There is the lair. All very standard here for SHIN. The norm in this matchup for Zerg at the moment is to go into a lurker-based army most of the time. I've seen quite a few Zerg players at the highest level complain about this matchup as of late. Basically, the TLDR is that they believe that the Baneling nerf is a little too much. Basically, every single Zerg unit composition for this matchup used to be Baneling based, and nowadays the Baneling is not nearly as good as it used to be against Protoss. So they're kind of forced to go into Lurkers instead. But then Lurkers kind of lose to Sky Toss, but they also sort of lose against Ground Toss. So I feel like a lot of Zerg players are kind of in limbo right now, where they're... I think on paper they don't think that they can... If the game is played perfectly by the Protoss player, I feel like they don't really think they can win against them, but... Tournament results so far say otherwise. So let's see. What are we going to do, ShoWTimE? Oh, I thought we were going to build a Nexus. We're going to build a probe? Or we're going to bring a probe router to the other side of the map? Or did we just accidentally click it? No, we're going to make a proxy. Okay. Very conservative proxy. Hydra coming up again. +1 missile here for SHIN, who's looking to play a Roach Hydra for the time being. So they ended up double nerfing the Baneling. I still think the double nerf was a little much. Yeah. Thing is, though, Zerg may be not quite as powerful as they once used to be. But Serral is still looking pretty much unbeatable, so... It's one of those weird scenarios where you see the Zerg players like, can't do it, can't, and then Serral, 4-0 in the grand finals of the most recent Premier tournament. He drops 2 maps in total. Not a single game lost against Protoss. Zerg players complaining. I wonder if Serral never picked up StarCraft 2, where Zerg would currently be at. I feel like Serral single-handedly has got to be the reason why Zerg got nerfed like 7 times. Pretty funny. Anyways, SHIN trying to go for the golden minerals. He should have an army big enough, though, to deal with these Protoss units. This is more or less just a skill check. ShoWTimE already got the damage he was hoping for. We're probably going to see him taking a Nexus here in a moment, although he's up to, he's up to 8 gateways. Charge is coming. I don't think he can really clean this map up, though, in the same way he tried doing it last time around. I don't see him charging up this ramp. Zerg already at 3 base saturation, obviously. Okay. 4th hatchery here for the Zerg now coming up on the left side. This is currently unscouted by ShoWTimE. Okay, hatchery will get killed. It's actually fascinating to think about sometimes, though, because Serral started dominating in 2018. And I think since then, Zerg probably got about a dozen nerfs. Like, very basic units, like, for example, the Baneling, but also the Queen, were substantially more powerful. And in return, there were some very minor buffs, I guess, but Zerg really, across the board, was substantially more powerful in 2018. It's kind of funny to think about. Because if nothing would have changed, I think Serral would have been just never losing anything. Anyways, yeah, this is a cool attempt here by ShoWTimE, but I think going pure Stalker Zealot at this stage in the game is a little bit questionable. He's keeping all of this alive. Problem is, right, SHIN's army is just so big. At the same time, that's also a problem here for SHIN now, because he needs to get something done with it. His army is not going to get any better until he gets the Lurker Tech. But he's going to try and just push in with his main force. Did not bring an Overseer in the mix. That's kind of nuts to me. The fact that there's no Overseer means that a Stasis Ward could actually just completely throw him for a loop here, but Zealot run by on the right side, at least trying to get in, but all of these attacks are a little eh. Now the 4th Nexus has been attempted on the low ground by ShoWTimE, but I don't think that this base is really going to get much done either. Yeah, just good old Roach Hydra. Couple of Ravagers, couple of Zerglings for support, but really it's just Roach Hydra. And now a transition finally to the Infestation Pit. This reminds me actually quite a bit of the style that Serral was playing at the ESL Master Spring Tournament. Just Roach Hydra. Roach Hydra into missile upgrades and then obviously a bunch of lurkers in the end. Okay. SHIN trying to get an angle. Battery overcharge obviously very, very powerful. Is there enough Protoss here for ShoWTimE to hold this relatively basic attack? I'm a little afraid that there is simply not enough. Look at the amount of Zerg on the production tab. We're gonna see a few Stalkers coming in at a time. Yeah. ShoWTimE mixing it up, by the way. So exactly what I was suggesting earlier, right? Not playing the same strategy every single game. This is a little out of character for ShoWTimE, but I think this is also one of the reasons why ShoWTimE likes to play the same build over and over and over again, because he probably looks at this game, he's like, see? I try something different and it doesn't work! Normal timing for Robo Facility play obviously would be long before this point. The idea here for ShoWTimE is to get that quick 3rd Nexus up and then to overwhelm the Zerg with sheer amounts of gateway units. But he stopped making probes quite early. And yeah, I think as a result right now, he's never going to be able to get a 4th base up. Meaning that at the 11-minute mark, he's going to start running out of cash. Now, there are force fields. There are also Ravagers, though. You can pop those force fields relatively easily. But ShoWTimE is going to need a base quick. Those golden minerals, they're running out. Main base is running dangerously low. In the meantime, Zerg did secure another expansion on the low ground. Zerg did tech up towards the hive. And the lurker then is finishing up. Now finally a robo facility is on the production tab. But I think this is one of those situations where if this was a ladder game, there's a very good shot. ShoWTimE would have just gone for one final push. Tried to see if we could win the game and get it over with. But because this is an important tournament match, he's trying to see if he can transition into it. Yeah, there's just nothing to kill lurkers here. Immortals are very good. Archon Immortal Storm, for example, is very good against lurkers. You don't really need to go Skytoss. SHIN smelling blood in the water. Moves forward right now. He doesn't have his lurker upgrades yet, though, so this attack is actually quite difficult for him to execute, but he realizes that there's just nothing for the Protoss to deal with these lurkers. I mean, this is kind of like stimming your Marines into lurkers, you know? It's technically possible. If you're beyond... You know what? Oh? He may be able to... Yeah, even if he holds, he's still kind of dead. Yeah, this is a beyond moment, though. This is ShoWTimE still showing us that he is a ridiculously good player. Killing that army with Stalkers and Zealots is actually very difficult. You gotta be dodging all of those spines. Super easy to mess up and accidentally lose. Ultimately, though, the Zerg is just way too big, and SHIN manages to get a point on the board. Alrighty! Site Delta is next. A nice, comfortable map. Big opportunities for macro. Not really a whole lot of opportunities for all-ins. Although there are certainly some attacks that you can bring across the map that are very unexpected. Or unexpected. I think if we're gonna see any sort of cheese, any sort of real early to mid-game aggression, it'll come from SHIN. I don't think ShoWTimE is gonna go ahead and do a strategy like the one he just went for again. I'm assuming we're gonna see triple Oracle, 5 Adepts to harass the Zerg, into 1 Forge together with +1 attacks that is, and then also into Blink, 4th Nexus, Robo Facilities, and we're gonna be sitting there while pushing the Zerg a little bit. I think that's gonna be the play. SHIN has quite a bit of range in the mid game in particular, if that is indeed the style we'll see from ShoWTimE. Mutas, for example, they were historically quite good on this map. I've seen quite a few games where Mutas actually caught the Protoss off guard. Mutas, very uncommon currently. He could be going into them though. Same for like, again, lurker play. That is certainly an option. He could go into Swarm Host. We've seen Swarm Host play. He can go into a Roach Ravager all-in. You can still play Hydraling Bane. So I feel like the options for the Zerg, especially in the mid game, are quite a bit nicer than they are for the Protoss. Zerg in the early game, very predictable, but Zerg in the mid game certainly has a lot more opportunities. Protoss usually a little bit more pushed into a corner as far as those early to mid game unit compositions go. Did they ever truly buff the Stalker? I'm trying to think. Because for the longest time, the Stalker was played, but not nearly as much as it is right now. I think it's just the counters, right? That got a little bit weaker. So the norm for Zerg in this matchup was to go +1 melee, but ever since the Baneling got nerfed, Zergs don't really go melee upgrades as frequently anymore. Because the Baneling and the scaling in general is just not quite as nice. No, I don't think the Stalker really ever directly got buffed. But we see it so often now in every single one of the Protoss matchups. I like it though. For many, many years in StarCraft 2, we always had like Marine Marauder Medevac as the golden composition, like the go-to composition for Terran. And then for Zerg, everything was Ling Bane based. And then for Protoss, it was like Colossi. Go Carriers or something. Like, they didn't really have that core early to mid-game identity, I guess. And these days, they certainly do. Always nice to have a little bit of variety. Alrighty. Now, there are, of course, different attacks that Protoss can go for. Glaive the Depth builds, for example. Quite common. But again, I feel like that is a different spice of Protoss. You have to be, yeah, you have to be enjoying your spicy food if you enjoy those type of build orders. And the way that ShoWTimE plays, it's kind of like black pepper is too spicy, you know? Like, it's very vanilla. Third Nexus coming up ridiculously quick, even quicker than in the previous game. So I think ShoWTimE has successfully figured out that there is basically no aggression from the Zerg early on that could ever target his third Nexus. We're gonna have to see. There are 12 links in total, but SHIN doesn't have any vision of the third. If these 7 drones would be Zerglings, I think the third could be in a world of trouble. It's always that weird thing, right? So now he's gonna see it. You will see that the Nexus is pretty much already like 60% of the way done. Like sometimes taking a base earlier means it's actually safer because it means that you have more health on it. So this may be one of those situations where, technically speaking, it might be a little bit risky to take the third Nexus that early on. But at the same time, yeah, 12 Zerglings are not really going to threaten it. And at this point, SHIN has accepted that that third Nexus has been taken. Which means, honestly, that even though the Oracle had to use the Pulsar Beam attack defensively, ShoWTimE doesn't need to do any damage. This is kind of like Terrans opening up triple command center really greedily. The nice thing about triple command center is that you really don't need to slow down the Zerg. Like, you can, but it's more or less a bonus. You can, yeah, face them head on in that economy. So this is like a 3 minute and what, like 15, maybe 20 seconds on that third base. SHIN, a little panicked right now, makes 6 Overlords at once. That is certainly not optimal. Forged together with a Twilight Council right now here for the German Protoss. Good now. You gotta say that. Yeah. When I now think of the word... Yeah, I think of genau. That's my go-to German word now. It used to be Hammergeil. Also, certainly one of the very best German words. Genau, Hammergeil. I guess you can combine them. Really sweet. +1 melee this time around for SHIN, so I think he's gonna go Hydra Ling again. He feels the need to... do a little bit, I think, of corner cutting here. Because he realizes that he's going to fall behind if he plays a straight-up game. So yeah, he's going to be playing Hydraling Bane. I recently got to cast a series where I think it was Elazer did that exact same thing. Where Elazer essentially just never transitioned towards Hive. And he just stuck around on Hydraling Bane with upgrades instead. I think that may very well be the style we're going to see here from SHIN. Just mass amounts of Hydraling Bane. Got a feeling ShoWTimE is going to be really good against that sort of thing, though, because, well, like I said, it's something that Elazer likes to play, and obviously they practice on the same server. They will be playing against each other quite frequently, I'm sure, if they just queue up a bunch of games. And ShoWTimE is, in general, a very, very strong defensive player. Let's see, SHIN. There's the, yeah, already Storm coming up. I love the Storm. Storm is like the natural enemy of Banelings. We don't even have Baneling speed yet. Baneling Nest has been scouted. I'm assuming SHIN is going to be getting the speed upgrade here in a moment, but he's going to go straight Hydras instead. Okay. Question is SHIN going to be able to get across the map with Hydras before Storm finishes up? Because the weather forecast is pretty obvious. It's lasers. Lasers, that's the weather forecast, yeah. ShoWTimE is gonna take a 4th Nexus. I think he's reading this game properly, but he's like, nah, I don't care. I know what I need to do. He adds on a whole load of gateways. We do need to warp in a couple of High Templar, though. We just have one over here. Now Baneling speed is coming up, so SHIN actually a bit late on that upgrade. Yeah, I don't really like this build too much from SHIN, to be honest. I feel like he's making quite a few mistakes that are quite avoidable. Like 2 supply blocks in one game. Just a bit sloppy. Storm? We have Storm. We're not gonna do... Okay. Well, that was a little late. Here's the Hydraling Bane attack. ShoWTimE needs to keep this base alive. It'll be a tough one, though. Oracles probably should try and get back home as well. Okay, the Templar are coming in. The rocks are already down, which is really lovely done here by SHIN. Okay, good storm. Yeah, he's gonna keep this base alive. In the meantime, whoa, okay. The classic 1-2 punch. ShoWTimE loses 20 probes just like that. And that suddenly puts him on the back foot. He's like, oh, thank God, keep the 4th base. And my economy is, okay, yeah. It sucks. But, of course, really well done right there by SHIN, who managed to deal a substantial amount of damage right there. Here come more banelings. There's still a hole in the wall. Okay. This does make the follow-up defense much harder for ShoWTimE because his income is just not as good. We need to see another storm. We don't have another storm, I don't think. Maybe one more here in the end, but he wants to save it. Okay. And suddenly the Hydroling Bane army is getting really big. In the meantime, we do have a group of zealots going across, but he forgot charge. Just like that. GG is called. It's SHIN who wins the 3rd game. El Cyane is gonna be our 4th game in this best of 7 series. Best of 7, Lowko, not a best of 5. I accidentally put best of 5 on the scoreboard. I like everything there for ShoWTimE until the banelings rolled in. Yeah, quite literally a very hit or miss strategy there for SHIN. I feel like there's quite a few games like that though that are quite frustrating, I think, for ShoWTimE, where he's technically playing it pretty much perfectly, but then, yeah, a couple banelings in that particular game anyways, they slip through the cracks. Be it a roach run by or a drop or whatever, and you just kind of lose the game. That's one of the downsides of playing a super defensive style. You have to be so on point with defending everything. And, well, like I tried explaining, Zerg has so many different varieties of aggression in the mid game that you have to be prepared against everything. You have about a split second to react to everything, and if you don't do it all perfectly, suddenly you find yourself pretty far behind. I feel like that previous game, though, could have been avoided just by positioning the structures over at the 3rd base ever so slightly differently. Because, well, the banelings just, they just rolled in. Uncharacteristic mistake right there from ShoWTimE, and I'm sure he's quite upset about that, but either way, now we find ourselves on El Cyane. What can we do this time around? It's a pretty Korean style as well, though, from SHIN, I feel like. I mean, like I said, Elaser likes to play it, but I feel like overall, it's not really the style you see too much on the European server. The Koreans in general do play all of the matchups a little bit differently. A lot more focused on aggression. If you ever decide to, for example, ladder on Korea, you'll notice that every single game lasts about 3 minutes. Not until the higher leagues is when the games finally go past like the 7-minute mark. I'm not even kidding. Korean server is extremely cheesy. And that aggression carries all the way until the very top of the ladder. Most macro focused is definitely Europe. America is kind of a little bit of everything. They start the NA specials at a very young age on the North American server. Those crazy builds we see guys like, the guys like, for example, Australia play, where the build orders just sometimes don't make any sense. Those are all over the ladder on the North American server. Alrighty. Oracle build once again here from ShoWTimE, no surprise. I heard this is the case as well with other esports. Like, so in StarCraft 2, like, the Koreans are quite aggressive in general, right? Like, in tournament games, but also apparently on the ladder, right? With basically every league. And I heard that this is the case as well with other esports out there. Like first-person shooters, MOBAs, like Dota and League of Legends. I don't really follow those games too closely, but it is kind of funny how that carries from game to game. It is also interesting to me how every server, always, in every game, has like its own little internal meta. Like once upon a time, the Chinese StarCraft 2 community was basically an isolated community, right? They couldn't play on the Korean server very easily. They didn't really compete or participate or compete in really any other tournaments. And from what I understand, most of the Chinese fans in like 2010 would only ever consume Chinese content. So they followed their own little meta. And then at some point, it's like the reintroduction of an entire region, right? One day they started competing, and it's like two twins that grew up in different families, like identical twins that grew up in different families that just turned out to be entirely different people. It was very fun. It was also interesting because the strategies they would play in China were just not very good. These days, obviously, the Chinese players also play, well, 99% what the norm over in Korea, but yeah, when they first started competing globally, it was very interesting. Alrighty, so far, pretty good game right here for ShoWTimE. Again, nothing to write home about. I've seen a couple of angry YouTube comments about people saying, Lowko, why don't you commentate the oracles? And okay, fine. Oh, oracles swooping in, queen, zoning it. Oh, and the oracles get deflected. Yeah, I try to follow them around and, you know, occasionally bring them up. But I think we've all seen what the oracles and adepts are capable of. There's a Nidus network. That is a very quick Nidus network as well. How many queens are we on? 7 queens and about 60 Zerglings. Nidus Worm up in the main base. Oh, he put it in vision. No, bro. Why did we not put it over there? SHIN, are you... Why? It was... Anyways. He put it within vision range of the gas. Anyways, the queens still managed to pop out though, and since the queens were the units that went in first, they're also the units that popped out first. And that means that suddenly we can transfuse these structures back up to full. A little over eager right there by SHIN. Double worm right now in the main base. And you know things get pretty crazy when there's 2 worms in the main base, eh? Yeah, what do you do? Oh, triple worm? That's ambitious. Are we still having the same conversation, SHIN, or like, what are we doing? At some point, it's too many. At some point, we're just wasting money. He's very all in, though. So honestly, he needs to kill more than what he's killed so far. Killing the... Yeah, the blink upgrade is really good. ShoWTimE trying his very best to make the best of this bad situation, but I think ultimately, the reaction against the Nidus Worm was just a little too slow. If the oracles were positioned differently, or if one of those Protoss units was actually in the main base patrolling it, or if you had the pylon build over there and could react ever so slightly quicker, this could have all been avoided. Honestly though, killing 22 probes is not enough. I actually don't think that... No, this is not over. Brenda goes back home. Brenda, Karen, Margaret, Lily, they're all back home right now. All the boomer queens, they've gone on an adventure, but they have had enough. This is like the hobbits returning to the Shire. Once, but no more. Instead, we're going into drones again. So SHIN actually just trying to... Yeah, play the macro game now. All I want to do is just sit there and watch things grow. And like smoke some pipe weed or whatever they do in the Shire. Play some music, dance on tables, that sort of thing. It sounds like a good life, to be fair. Question is, do they have internet in the Shire? Yeah, that's kind of make or break for me, personally. Oracle swooping in, getting some kills, and these are super precious kills. So, that Nidus shenanigans, right? The entire main base of the Protoss overwhelmed, killed 22 workers, but in total 19 drones have gone down. So ShoWTimE actually doing an amazing job in this game. Even though the original defense, the initial defense against the worm wasn't quite as good as he would have liked it to be, the crisis management was pretty much flawless. It would have been easier, I think, to just nip it in the butt before it really gets going. But then ShoWTimE realized, okay, well, it's going now. Let me just defend everywhere. And, oh, I don't think we want to move with these guys, though. Do we really want to push with those right now? We don't really... Okay, maybe morph them into Archons? I think he's threatening that he's already got Storm done, but he doesn't. Now, we're just going to park them over at the Watchtower while going for a fort. I see. Okay. Very nicely done. Very well handled right there by ShoWTimE. And now they're gonna go back home again. Yeah. They moved to the Watchtower, they scared the Zerg a little bit, but ultimately it was ShoWTimE who was scared, because ShoWTimE doesn't really know how much army there currently is available. Transition right here from SHIN, by the way, straight into a hive now, together with a lurker den. So this is looking like a very dynamic game. Yep. I feel like the previous games have sort of ended with the first aggression. Now suddenly we've got ourselves a match that seems to be going quite a bit longer. I say that. We may very well see a push here in just a moment that's just gonna destroy the Zerg. It's a lot of Templar. ShoWTimE doesn't like hobbits. I think that's what we've learned. He's gonna storm the Shire. Brenda's not gonna be happy about it. Oh, he's being sneaky as well, eh? Shire. Baggins. That's what ShoWTimE is doing right now with his observers. Trying to go around, get a little bit of a peep on where those units are at. He's hunting Brenda. Which one is it? This one has 2 kills. This is one of the OGs, I think. Oh, he got her. Easy kill. Easy kill. There are quite a few lurkers right now, though, and some big storms. Ooh, that's a lot of drones and a lot of death in general. There were some Zerglings sent to the other side of the map for a counter, but I think there might just be a little bit too much Protoss. At least this 4th base is in a world of trouble. Here come the Queens again. They were enjoying their retirement, but it wasn't meant to be. Yep, well, at least the game ended before all of them died, but that is not what they had envisioned when they went back home in the Worm. Oceanborn is indeed next. The only problem with mentioning the hobbits is that now I get those songs stuck in my head. Yeah, now I get those. Okay, fine, I'll rewatch the entire trilogy. Okay, fine. Again. I once upon a time tried to get my girlfriend to watch The Fellowship of the Ring. And it disappoints me greatly that when we got to the part that they managed to make it to Rivendell, past the river, she wasn't even watching. Come on, man! That's the moment that Gandalf explains that he's been late, and like, you know, the lady does the thingy with like the water and stuff. And then, you know, the riders have to like, and you have the epic music, right? And then, you know, the dudes show up on the horses and suddenly they're all there? My God, man. Maybe I should have watched the regular version, not the extended edition. I don't even know if there are any extended parts before that point, because I only ever watched the Anyways. It is what it is. Here I am watching the Barbie movie. Couldn't even watch 12 hours of cinema. Some of the greatest cinema with me. Ha! I actually kind of enjoyed the Barbie movie though, to be fair. Yeah, no, it wasn't that bad. I'm trying to think what other movies I've watched that I really liked. I watched Oppenheimer, finally, on a plane a couple months ago. I'd never gotten around to watching the thing because it's so long. And, you know, since I have the attention span of a 12-year-old, focusing for like 3 hours on a movie. Other than The Lord of the Rings, it's apparently difficult for me. Yet here we are. One day, they will remake the Lord of the Rings movies, and we will all be disappointed. That's going to happen. I just want you to be mentally prepared for that. Like, one day, they will remake The Lord of the Rings. They will remake all of your favorite classics. They're already talking about a Harry Potter remake. I feel like those movies ended like 4 years ago. Anyways. Tom Holland is going to be Aragorn. I don't know if I'm comfortable with that. Tom Holland as Gandalf. I don't... Alright, well, at least now the song is no longer stuck in my head. And at least we have ShoWTimE going for an Oracle. My main question at this point is, what is going to be the timing of the third? It's going to be the normal timing. So he's been going like 3 minutes and 20 seconds on the third. He's been delaying the second Oracle in favor of a third base. He's been trying to play it relatively greedily. But apparently now that the score has been evened up, we're going to be playing this very, very straightforwardly. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, SHIN opening up triple hedge. There's quite a bit of variety, by the way, in the early game for Zerg. But honestly, a lot of those minute details don't really matter that much. Like, I feel like I always, in all my casts, I really hammer, especially Protoss build orders. Because Protoss just is significantly more build order dependent than Zerg. Unless Zerg makes too many links, the timing of all of their structures is almost, well, I don't want to say irrelevant, but it is a little bit more simplistic, I guess. As long as you can defend against the early game right here, whatever the Protoss is going to throw at you, you should be perfect. And there you go. That was very cleanly handled right there by SHIN. He is happily droning up. That larva mechanic is terrifying. What if Tarantino remakes Lord of the Rings movies? I think I could get on board with that. Yeah, I think that would be interesting. There would be a lot of blood, a lot of feet, and we would probably start somewhere near the end. It would be very confusing. But at least it'll be entertaining. Twilight Council follow-up right here from ShoWTimE. And we already have an Immortal. What are we doing with the Immortal? I almost wonder if that's a mistake. A mistake? A mistake. A mistake. Alright, sorry. Now I'm... Give me another few years of casting StarCraft matches, and I will not even talk about the games anymore. I'll be... I feel like the longer I cast games, the more they spiral out of control. Ay, ay, ay. One day you'll return, and you'll be like, what is he on about? Like, I remember watching this guy back in the day, and he seemed quite normal, but like, why is he... He hasn't talked about anything. We're going +1 melee here while building a bunch of roaches. I would imagine SHIN is just doing this defensively. He didn't go for any sort of... Like, he can't really do much with this. There's a lot of Zerglings that can't really achieve that much. Zealots are once again coming up. I think this is actually an Immortal Zealot Archon. Sorry, an Immortal Zealotolin. Yeah, no Archons this time around. Years ago, I used to introduce the players for every single map. And then I figured, you know what? That seems unnecessary. And now apparently, after many, many years of casting Zerg versus Protoss early game, I consider casting any of the first 5 minutes. Hey, we have a Spire! Okay. Now that is something we rarely see in this matchup. I feel like Spire play and Mutas in general, incredibly uncommon. That is interesting. +2 melee coming up, so SHIN is actually gonna go, yeah, Mutiling Bane. He's using roaches here, but I don't think he's gonna continue playing them. Mostly just because, well, they're gonna cut into his gas. Generally speaking with Mutas, I think the last player I've seen Mutas, or I've seen play Mutas at the highest level, would be Dark. And Dark would play them usually in a very all-in-y variant. He would go mass Muta. And I never really thought it was that great of a build, to be honest. But you have the opportunity to just go full counterattacks instead. So, rather than facing the Protoss army head-on, you can just play mass counterattack and never actually address the army. So let's see. He could also just make like 10 Mutas or so and then call it a day, but I've got a feeling that this is not gonna be... I don't think that's enough. I feel like you really have to go, like, either not make any Mutas, okay, or just keep making them. Yeah. 12 Mutas. These are relatively late as far as Muta openers go. So, I wouldn't be surprised. Yep. If he decides to double down. So that's +1 flyer attacks coming up. More drones. He'll probably take the gases, exactly. And he'll just take as many Mutas as he can make. Okay. So this is a very different approach. Mass Muta play. So, whenever I see mass Muta like this in Zerg versus Protoss, I always think back of the days where Zergs would do this and literally just make Mutas and spine crawlers. They would make like a spine crawler forest over here, for example, and they would just attack. Like they would never actually engage the Protoss army. They would just counterattack. And it was actually a really cool style. Now, not very popular anymore these days, but still technically something that's viable. There's a ranged upgrade. So there's a ranged upgrade in the, not the fusion core. I've been only playing this game for 15 years, okay? You can't expect me to know all of the structures. There's a ranged upgrade for the Phoenixes. Anion Pulse Crystals. It is very potent. And I think as soon as ShoWTimE realizes that this is indeed mass Muta, he needs to get it ASAP. Because there is this weird opportunity for Zerg to actually kill Mutas, even though Mutas can move and shoot at the... Or sorry, Phoenixes can move and shoot at the same time. Phoenixes technically can kill all of the Mutas, but obviously this is played... Well, it's Europe going up against Korea, but probably on the North American server. Quite difficult to micro the Phoenixes perfectly. So he'll have to be careful. Kill on that base. That's a little sloppy. Yep, there it is. Fleet Beacon. That's the name of that structure. I knew that. It's the Protoss Fusion Core. It's the Protoss Greater Spire. Careful, Protoss. Oy, oy, oy. Okay. Whoa. All right. SHIN was thinking about going after the Archons. Now, Archons deal splash damage. It may not always be noticeable, but against clumped up Mutas, you'll see them pop out of the sky. Oh god, okay. Keeps that base alive. Nice stasis ward here. Yeah, ShoWTimE is so strong when he's playing defensively like this. So, second Stargate, +1. We need to go ranged here, ASAP. It's a relatively expensive upgrade, but it's the only reliable answer you really have against Mutalisks. Oh, he's gonna jump him. He's gonna jump him. Look, the Muta DPS is actually nuts. When you have this many of them and they all fire at the same time, they can actually kill the Phoenixes relatively easily. Okay, I don't think that micro has been totally perfect, but that's because our Zerg player is busy looking at home as well. He can't really fight this army. He can kill everything on the other side of the map, but I don't think SHIN has the opportunity here unless he kills the Templar! Oh my god, okay. Well, I think that's one of the few ways in which ShoWTimE can win the straight-up engagement. It's very difficult. Yeah, he's just sending in more. No reaction here from ShoWTimE whatsoever. A lot of clumped up Protoss units too, nerfed or not. Those Banelings still hit really hard. Then again though, ranged upgrade now starts up for the Phoenixes. Archons can still keep this entire Protoss base as well as, well, this army alive. You can obviously magic box the Mutas and keep them spread out. Mitigate a lot of that splash damage, and I think we should recall. Yeah, should have probably recalled a little while ago. Okay. So, both players took a lot of losses. But considering ShoWTimE has a limited amount of bases and not really that much map control... Oh, he's gonna magic box over here. Okay. This is a tricky situation right here for ShoWTimE. At the same time, though, SHIN must have seen the fleet beacon. Yes. So he knows that the ranged upgrade for those Phoenixes is coming, and therefore, the age of the Muta is almost over. Let's see. There we go. You see those beautiful pink lasers. Suddenly, if you micro it as well, the Phoenixes can very easily pick off these units. Yep. And this is what ultimately killed mass Muta stalls in StarCraft 2. They're still played as an harassment tool, but rarely do we see them as like a massed unit anymore. Nicely done right here by ShoWTimE. Yeah, they're still faster. But ultimately, look at these guys. Accepting their fate. Home is behind. Okay, no, they're actually dead. They can't sing anymore. Plus, I have no tomatoes. The tomatoes would be all over my desk. My microphone would get messy. I don't know. No singing for the Mutalisks, I'm afraid. There's the Lurker Den coming up. We do need another pylon here to power up the Cyber Core. It's a little awkward, but it'll function as a way to warp in units. It just, yeah, it will not continue researching anything. Okay, I think the longer this goes, the more comfortable it will be for ShoWTimE. Now, there is a move here at the end. Yeah, for SHIN to go into Mass Lurker. Mass Lurker is very dangerous, but we've got ourselves, well, 16 of them coming. We already have carriers, though, on the production tab. Phoenixes can obviously also be used to lift up those lurkers out of the ground. Not a very common way to play them, but I mean, it's something the unit in general has played quite frequently, right? In Protoss versus Terran. So I'm sure that ShoWTimE will be comfortable pulling that move off, even though lurkers aren't cyclones. Or, you know, any of the other units you like to pick up early on. Okay, this is actually a Zerg now trying to turtle up. Yeah. This is the beginnings of a Zerg planetary fortress equivalent, you know? We're gonna sit here, and we're gonna try and make a lot of stuff. That means the ball right here is in ShoWTimE's court. What can we do about it? Last time I checked, against Skytools, lurkers are not that great. Honestly, against Archon Immortal Zealot Storm, with Phoenixes for support, lurkers also kind of suck. So I think ShoWTimE has got this one in the bag. The engagement will still be tough, but he's got all of the tools he needs. This is still one of those games, though, that is much easier said than done. Say the Observer gets sniped. Zerg jumps you. A couple of the carriers get abducted. Immortals get thrown into the lurkers as well. The game can still be tough, but here we go. Blinding Clouds. There's indeed the liftoffs. Can anybody tell what's going on here? We have some parasitic bombs. You know what's going on? Zerg is going to be able to push some of this back. Yeah, that was a very dangerous fight. So ShoWTimE did not move against the Blinding Cloud, and he did not move against the Parasitic Bomb. Even though he was lifting off a lot of these units, the idea is that at that point your, you know, ground army can actually clean up the rest of the army, but since they were sitting underneath the Blinding Cloud, they didn't really achieve that much. So ShoWTimE is going to go back to the good old comfort of going carriers. +2 air weapons coming up. I think the game is supposed to be over at this point. But you can see that ShoWTimE is not going to try and push for that again. I don't think he will do that until he's maxed out with carriers and all that. That now suddenly creates an opportunity for SHIN to move in. Okay. And getting the kill on his base is actually very big. Ay. This could actually still be a Zerg win. Dude, I love watching SHIN play sometimes. This guy is an absolute madman. Yeah, and this is the type of stuff that you will rarely see on the European server. Because this is technically not optimal, right? Guys like ShoWTimE like to play the game like it's an Excel spreadsheet, right? They try to play, quote-unquote, perfect StarCraft. But this is SHIN, absolute madman. Tries to see if he can out-multitask his opponent, and he is not out of this yet. I still think ultimately, though, his unit composition is worse, and he agrees. He's going second Spire right now while building a greater Spire. He doesn't even have the money, really, to make a transition towards Brute Lords. There are no Corruptors up in the air. But he's threatening like he's got all the gold in the world, right? Like he's pushing through. He's moving around like he can easily remax. He can't. By the way he's maneuvering his army, you would almost believe that he can. Okay. Misrallied units here by ShoWTimE. Carrier goes down. Another Immortal with forward, looks like. No, not quite. There's a big Zealot counterattack, though, at the same time. I'm assuming SHIN will be going into Corruptors from here. So he can make some Brute Lords. Corruptor Brute Lord kills the entire army that Protoss currently has. The Zealots, though, creating a distraction, and this is really quite nice for ShoWTimE. I mean, not so much these Zealots, but the 15 drones he just killed and the fact that he dragged that entire Zerg army back. +3 air attacks coming up. Roach Warren, still useful up north. The newly 5th base, though, yeah, the newly made 5th base is the one right over here on the left. And this is a weird unit composition right now for ShoWTimE. Like, yeah, it's strong, but it's not really Skytles anymore. Hydras following up those roaches. There's still some Phoenixes left over too. Nice kiting backwards right here by SHIN. Abducting units, trying to bring them into range right there of those Spore Crawlers too. Really scraping the bottom of the barrel, and he's getting value out of all of these little things. ShoWTimE loses a base up north, and he loses the fight down south. Zealot run by this time around managed significantly better by the Korean Zerg. Don't count SHIN out. I thought he was dead. But he's showing us no. Don't get it twisted. I'm gonna try and see if I can just bleed him out slowly over the course of 5 minutes or so. And it requires about 6 mistakes from the Protoss. But I think at this point, SHIN has got like 5 of the 6 that he needed. Ay. And this is a frustrating one for ShoWTimE, for sure. He's already had a game like this. Well, not quite like this, but a game that he quote-unquote should have won. Yeah, I think when ShoWTimE is feeling really good, he doesn't lose matches like this. But there's a little bit of inconsistency sometimes where it's manageable. He does not know, by the way, about the Brute Lords at all. Yeah, and suddenly we're gonna see like, I don't know, 12 Brute Lords hit the battlefield. There is 1 Phoenix, there are 2 carriers, and I guess we have Archons and Storm, but like that's not a very reliable squad to be killing Brute Lords with. Okay, let's see. The Brute Lords are gonna have to reveal themselves. There they are. Maybe kill the base and get out. Yeah, nicely done. There are some lurkers here on the left too, denying an entire expansion. New expansion build up north instead, but ShoWTimE, while having a significant worker lead, he does not really have an income advantage right now. Here go the Brute Lords. Tempest immediately fire up with the lost supply. Well, those are units you need in combination with the Tempests. Suddenly there's a Sky Zerg. Lurkers up north as well. Oh, they have found that new base, and with it, all of those probes that were long distance mining, 33 of them go down. Yeah, and I think ShoWTimE got a little careless here. I think he also sort of believed that this game was in the bag and almost unlosable. And then suddenly, SHIN is running circles around him. I mean, this army doesn't kill Brute Lords, so like, yeah, maybe you can run to the side of the Zerg player, but you can't kill Brutes with this. He's trying to buy time for Tempests. But there are still Corruptors up in the air, and there are still a bunch of Vipers as well. The Oracles just got sacrificed. They were forgotten about altogether. Lurkers are going to be able to finish off the Nexus, it looks like, too. And at that point, Protoss is basically broke. Ay. This was a turnaround into a turnaround into a turnaround. Excellent match right here. This started off with that mass muta stuff. +3/+3 coming up here for SHIN as well. Who may as well just think about an Ultralisk transition at this point, man. I mean, there's about a dozen Immortals at this point, but just for the memes. Yeah, and this is ultimately what it comes down to. Rarely do we see Zerg players trading more cost efficiently than Protoss, especially when playing Mutas. Muta Bane is one of the most cost inefficient strategies you can play. But throughout the course of this game, SHIN has lost less resources than ShoWTimE. Which is kind of unheard of. He doesn't know it though. He doesn't know exactly how much money there is, so he's playing it safe. He knows that at this point, we're 23 minutes in. Protoss has gotta be bled dry. And that's exactly the case. Main base is out, natural is out, third base is out, and, well, there are 85 minerals remaining over at the final base of ShoWTimE. SHIN, in the meantime, is taking whatever base he likes. He doesn't have a lot of gas, so he's a little cautious. Decides to double down on defending wherever he needs to. But this is a difficult game to read, obviously. For both ShoWTimE as well as SHIN. So maybe SHIN could take a bit of a push forward here. I think he would win the fight quite confidently, but he doesn't really know exactly how much mining there has been by the Protoss. So you'd rather be safe than sorry. I think ShoWTimE would agree with him on that. Zerg just getting all the late game upgrades. Protoss getting nothing. Okay, nicely done right there by ShoWTimE. Gets the feedbacks. Deals a lot of damage as well to units that regen rather slowly. ShoWTimE trying to long distance mine and get enough money again for another Nexus. I mean, this is still a powerful Protoss army, though. He has an Oracle. Okay, I was gonna say, we need something that allows him to see units at a distance. So those Revelations are nice. Oh, hello. Hello, ShoWTimE? ShoWTimE? Okay, careful now. That was sloppy. Yeah, sloppy. Just straight up sloppy. He was busy planting another base, I guess, and maybe there was like a Zergling distracting him. There's a lot of Stormy Boys available too, but the Templar are slowly dying. And at this point, ShoWTimE is just not mining anymore. Okay, we have what we call the Loko maneuver. With the Corruptors forcing that Protoss army to hurt itself. GG is cold. SHIN wins our 5th game in this best of 7 series. Amphion is going to be our 6th game in this series. You know what? We're on a highway to 2 minutes. Highway to 2 minutes. Doesn't really roll off the tongue very well. Usually this is about the time that we indeed finish up the Cyber Core. There you go. How did I do that? Nobody knows. You know what? I'll tell you. I'll tell you. Yeah. If you hit the like button, I'll tell you. All right, fine. I'll do it then. I hit the plus symbol on my keyboard. I know. One of the advantages of casting from replays. Stargate opener here from ShoWTimE. It's gonna be triple Oracle. Pretty much guaranteed. We're back up to regular. We're up to regular speed again. There are some adepts over here on the left side of the map now trying to hide because SHIN, this is actually kind of cool. Most of the Zerg seem to expand over here. SHIN has decided to take the left side expansion as a third. Interesting. Is that good? I'm a little concerned that it's not great for him, but Apparently he wants to be neighbors with the Protoss. Although ShoWTimE doesn't like neighbors. He's expanding towards the right side himself right now. Okay. That actually creates an interesting dynamic right here on this map. So the entire left side, right, is inaccessible unless these mineral fields are mined out or unless the rocks are destroyed. Interesting. ShoWTimE is like, ew, Zerg. I don't want to be neighbors with the Zerg, man. They're gross. They smell funny. They like to roll around and creep. Yeah, to be fair, I don't know if I would want to have Zerg as a neighbor either. They're very territorial too. Not very fun. Problem is they spread forward their territory as well, which is just a bit dangerous. It's a nasty business. Alrighty, so ShoWTimE is going to be going into the Twilight Council together with the Forge. Oracle's flying around. Getting a couple kills. Quite a bit of damage taken right there on the Oracle. But as long as it lives, I don't really mind it that much. Zergling running up north. Match point right here, by the way, of course, for SHIN, who might just be cooking up something. Yeah, problem is if you do expand towards the left side here, right, for ShoWTimE, there's a very good chance that Brenda, Karen, Margaret, Lily, right, the queens from earlier, the original hobbits, that they come knocking at your door. And is that really what you want? Now, I would want to have Brenda knocking at my door, personally. Don't tell my girlfriend, but, you know. I can imagine that not everybody would be welcoming that sort of thing, and apparently ShoWTimE is in that category. You know, when you think about it, the queens, by the way, right? If a marine is like 1.80 m, I always forget about it, right? But like queens are probably about the size of a house. They're large. Maybe a small house, but still, like a truck over here. It's beautiful. It's a very quick infestation pit. SHIN, of course, has got a little bit of room here to gamble. Curious to see where he's gonna take this. Are we gonna try and at least go into... Like, we could go into Hive. He could certainly also go into Swarm Hosts. I don't think he's gonna go... Well, maybe. I don't really like Swarm Host play very much. I feel like it never wins, but Zerg players keep giving it a try. Yep, it's Swarm Hosts. Now, I do think you always need a Nidus network. The only times I ever see Swarm Hosts be successful over like the last half year is when they are accompanied with a Nidus network. I'm assuming SHIN is gonna be making one. He already has links on the right side of the map. He obviously can rain Locust straight into the main base or to the natural expansion, and I think going across these mineral fields into that fourth base, very good option as well. No Nidus though. So he's just gonna run them. They're just gonna walk. Okay. And I would walk 100 miles. Oh, well then. That is probably worst case scenario. That's not a problem, I guess, with skipping the Nidus worm here. That just takes the wind out of the sails of the Zerg pretty much immediately. That first wave, getting that momentum going for that snowball effect is so important that now it's basically a disaster. Still a playable game, of course, but this does make it significantly harder. That really hurts the strategy that SHIN is trying to go for. Now we go Nidus Worm. This is the pity network. Couple of locusts over there. I mean, it's still easy for the Zerg to accidentally kill a base, though. No reaction here from ShoWTimE whatsoever until the locusts are already landed. So that's a much more successful wave. He's obviously busy microing over here. The locusts have been staggered at this point, obviously. Robo Bay. So ShoWTimE's thinking about going into what will probably be Colossi. There is indeed what I was expecting to happen. Oh, God. Remember that large water bottle I was talking about? At least I closed it. Jeez. This is some of the most professional commentary I have ever done. Somebody cue the Lord of the Rings movie again. Ay, ay, ay. Nidus Worms are going everywhere, but is SHIN really achieving what he's hoping to achieve? There's a Colossus coming. Colossi will be really good at fighting the Locust straight up. Lurker Den? Hive. So we will probably see Hydra Lurker Viper here in the end. But SHIN is doing those things, right? Or is one of those moves we've seen him make so far in the series already, where he is just causing chaos left, right, and center. And he is trying to see if he can potentially win the game amidst all of that chaos. ShoWTimE is holding himself quite well, though. Yes, he's taken a bunch of losses, but the cost efficiency of that Protoss army has been phenomenal. Look at that. Really, the only problem that he ran into were those Locusts he put into stasis that then ultimately ended up killing 8 probes in the natural. But honestly, at like, you know, that was like minute 8 or so. I don't think that really matters that much. They quickly pop into the worm. Zergling counterattack towards the top right-hand corner. Locusts do get activated over here, but they land on a couple of Zealots, which is quite suboptimal. I don't think you really want to, lose your units for no apparent reason. Ling run by in the top right, though, is successful in killing that base. Okay. Lurker range coming up. Oh, no! Oh, he gets it! He gets it! Okay. Well then. I feel like the success rate of rewalling like that is like 1 in 50. We have just experienced Protoss actually rewalling against Zerglings. Very nice. I've seen Hero attempt that exact maneuver 17 times and he never gets it. We could also put a unit in hold position over there, but nah. Lurkers coming up. Keep in mind that we still have the Nidus Worm, so they can still pop, for example, into the main base, or, well, maybe not over there, but many different locations that are still quite dangerous. You could bring a couple of drones. Yeah, there's a drone over here. Open up the door for a Lurker run by. I think it's a good idea. He's been targeting the Nexus itself, which I don't really love. Nexus over here stayed alive. Nexus over here now also stayed alive, and that is hindering this quite a bit. Yeah, I think SHIN is getting a little over-eager. It's only 10 Swarm Hosts in total, which is really not that much. Okay. There are a lot of Locusts. Or, oh, no. Whew. There's a lot of Lurkers there burrowed all over the place. He should be able to get the kill. No. That's not enough. That's not enough. And now it's getting a little bit awkward, eh? The first wave was supposed to kill it. Second wave was supposed to kill it. Are we going to commit a third? I think we will. Already, though, ShoWTimE has prepared another base. I think you should probably explain... Yeah, take the base over there, too. Have a location for you to transfer towards. Zergling run by. Not really getting too much done. And suddenly, you know what? The map control here from ShoWTimE is really nice. His army is significantly slower than that of the Zerg, but he is still, keeping the Zerg player on his toes and deflecting most of the aggression. Okay. Locust Wave goes into the main, kills a bunch of probes. Maybe a photon cannon or two. Okay. Why in the world did we warp in on top of those units? That makes no sense. Anyways. Getting warped in from Ire only to immediately get warped back. What if they get stuck in limbo there? They get stuck in a loop. They get stuck in the middle of the transfer to platform 9 3/4 over here. What happens? Stargate's coming up. A lot of Stargates coming up. Together with a fleet beacon. So we're gonna go 4 Stargates all at the same time. He's already been going into the +1 air. Stormy Boys will be on the production tab momentarily. ShoWTimE making a big transition. Yeah, SHIN is very good though in these chaotic situations. Actually very impressed with the way that SHIN is playing this overall. Very fun. I see many Zerg players attempting this style and it rarely works. So if you can pull this off against somebody of ShoWTimE's caliber who's ridiculously good defensively, it's gotta work really nicely against many other players too. And again, the Nexus this time around! Oh, he doesn't get it! Oh, Lord, okay. Battery overcharge saves the day. That is now what? The 3rd or the 4th Nexus that stays alive. ShoWTimE activating the battery overcharge and manually targeting his Nexus. Incredibly clutch. SHIN putting a door inside of the wall that he made himself. I think ultimately the age for the Swarm Host is over. But at the same time, SHIN is pushing in. He's gonna kill the base over here, finish the job that well, shield battery saved earlier. Carriers are coming though. Carriers will be here in just a moment. Is there detection? Oh, there's no detection. ShoWTimE doesn't have detection. He has no way to kill those lurkers right now. Yep, he needs to back off. He does kill the den, so that's good. In the meantime, though, there's a lot more lurkers on the other side of the map. +1 air weapons gets denied, or +2 air weapons actually, gets denied. Arguably the more important upgrade. It really benefits those carriers so much. That carrier will just barely not spawn. Protoss in the meantime counterattacking as well. Killed the Zerg's 3rd base. There's still an expansion up to the right of this location. Natural expansion, and with it though, all of the tech here for ShoWTimE is going to disappear. Okay. Whew. This series started off relatively tamely, but my god. These last 2 games, including this one, amazing stuff. Yeah, this Zerg army is gonna overwhelm the Protoss. It's done a lot of damage though. SHIN now only at 23 workers, and if this Protoss army has any say in the matter, we're gonna reduce that number even more. A couple of Zerg units pop out of their cocoons and immediately die. In the meantime though, lurker army in the main base. After killing all the tech in the natural, it's now moved on over towards the main. You know what? There's still a Robo Bay up there. But I don't think ShoWTimE is going to be able to keep that one alive. SHIN is bringing a peace offering towards the Protoss. He's like, here, take this. My finest overlords. Using them as a way to draw fire. But here's the Protoss army. My god, there's still actually a lot of ground units left over. Restarts another one of those cyber cores in the top right-hand corner. The problem is the lurker. ShoWTimE does not have the army to kill 15 lurkers. I mean, you know what? There are 8 immortals. He's got most of them right now in stasis, actually. Hold that thought. He doesn't have the army to kill 15 of them, but he can kill like 5 at a time, sure. Lovely stasis wards right there, coming in very clutch. ShoWTimE is gonna catch the rest of them too, yeah. Oh, that's so well done right there by the German Protoss. Doesn't even use the storms. I would have stormed everything 17 times there, but GG gets cold. Wow, we're going to game 7 already. And that means it will all come down to this. We find ourselves in the final game of this best of 7 series on Ghost River. Now this map, it is short. The rush distance is very, very fast. So a lot of opportunity for aggression. I would say that naturally that does help out SHIN. Just with the way that he's been playing this so far, he's been trying to be neighbors with his opponent, and ShoWTimE is like, ew, Zerg. Ew, gross, I don't like it. Get off my lawn, right? I feel like SHIN wants to hug Protoss units. Generally speaking, though, the shorter maps aren't great for Zerg. Mostly because Zerg obviously has, well, just very fast-moving units. And obviously, if you have very high movement speed, the larger the map generally, up to a certain extent anyways, the better usually. There's a lot of locations where Protoss can hide. Openers like, for example, Glaive the Depths, or follow-ups like Glaive the Depths can be very dangerous here. But I just don't really see ShoWTimE playing something like that. I think he'll probably play mostly the same. Maybe go for a build that we saw earlier with Zealots together with Archons after the Adept shenanigans, but he probably only plays that whenever he deals a certain amount of damage in the early game. So far, not quite there yet. A long series, by the way. Very good. Hatchery in the natural expansion finishes up. Brenda has taken a creep tumor. That's what she's doing, in the corner of the main. Sleeping on the job just a little bit, but the Roach Warren will be built this time around. So SHIN has been skipping the Roach Warren quite a bit. Not this time. Relatively late third Nexus here, though, for ShoWTimE. So he's decided to, yeah, add additional units and the gateway and everything else before he's gone for this third Nexus. Again, both players tiptoeing around each other a little bit. Not willing to cut any corners. They know this is an important match. Oh, and that's really bad for ShoWTimE. Losing an Oracle just like that. It's actually probably the worst way to lose one of those units. It's very painful. Great scout right here by SHIN. He sees the follow-up. He now knows that it's going to be Twilight together with Forge. Can't be much of a surprise, but sometimes we see double Forge on the back of this. Sometimes we see a lot of gateways, right? Like, it kind of depends. Even though there is a so-called standard and definitely a tendency here for ShoWTimE. It's always nice here for SHIN to get that confirmation. So what will it be? I think it has to be Blink. Yeah, not really much of an option here. Only 2 drones killed and an Oracle lost, though, is really quite rough. Yeah, if you kill 10 drones and you keep that Oracle alive, then suddenly going for like an all-in would be an amazing choice. Right now, I don't think it's a great plan. He's also seen the Roach Warren of the opponent, so that alone is already likely going to deflect quite a few of those attacks. So, there's the Roach speed coming up. SHIN going for the 4th base. I would imagine SHIN probably wants to go just a normal game himself here. So he was playing that very Serral-esque style earlier with just straight up Roach Hydra. I think that probably makes the most sense. +1 missile indeed coming up. And I'm expecting a Hydra then here in a moment. He'll probably be making non-stop army until this 4th base is done. And the question is, will he be able to make drones at that point? He could also just double down. 66 drones, +1, Roach speed. I mean, like I said, there's an opportunity for Protoss to go for an all-in when you have a really good early game. But when you have a really bad early game, Zerg could certainly go ahead and just do a push of their own. Now, there is an infestation pit on the production tab. There is a drone coming up too. That drone is just to replace the infestation pit for now. Second robo facility together with a robo bay. Okay, he is droning. SHIN could go for a big shove. Just walk the queens, Roach Ravager queen over at the 3rd base. If you kill the 3rd base, it's mostly game over. But he doesn't really want to take the chance. Decides to go into a Hydra Den together with an infestation pit. So this will probably be Hive together with a Lurker Den here eventually. He will need the gases over at that 4th base though if he wants to pull something like that off. So indeed, more drones are coming up. Robotics Bay is done, and it'll be Disruptors. Straight Disruptors. I think ShoWTimE is maybe putting his opponent on a Roach all-in. Because this early game has gone so poorly for ShoWTimE, I think he's a little afraid of exactly what I was suggesting. A Roach Ravager Queen shove here would be a dangerous thing to hold, and Disruptors happen to be really good against that. So this is a counter into a counter into a counter. Ultimately, though, it's a hive. It's a lurker den. And we'll probably see 2 Vipers minimum on the production tab. And Vipers are really good again against disruptors, because you can abduct them one at a time. ShoWTimE forced to take a bit of a chance here. And I'm a little afraid that his rock, paper, scissors is not going to work out as nicely. It still comes down to execution, obviously. But if everything goes well, SHIN should pull out ahead here in the end. I've also been talking for like 2 hours at this point. Maybe a little less. You know what? Fatigue is a very real thing for these players at this point too. Right? Like, talking about the game may be a little bit tiring. Watching the games may be a little bit exhausting too. But when you're constantly spamming, like, you know, 8 to 10 buttons a second throughout the entire series, these guys are burning a lot of calories. My caffeine has already run out. Nah, I'm just kidding. Permanently caffeinated. Caffeinated until 10 PM. Yeah, maybe not. Maybe not. That's a little far. Okay. ShoWTimE is dancing on... Yeah, I was gonna say, you need to be so careful. He's baiting out these roach bushes. Roach bush on the left side as well. ShoWTimE, though, knows what he's doing. Okay. Deflects his Zerg attack. Here's the real threat, though. Lurkers are coming. We already have 3 Vipers up in the air. Take the Disruptors and the Immortals out of this Protoss army. Abduct them one at a time. And the Protoss army is terrible. So that'll be the plan. There are, of course, already Templar out. Templar, I mean, they have Psionic Storm, but I almost wonder if the feedback ability that they can use against those Vipers is going to be more important. Problem is, there are none of those units right here at the front. So the juicy robotics units will be abducted one at a time. There's the feedbacks. Beautifully done. But those High Templars should have joined the main army. Here's the Lurker transition. If the Lurkers get into the right spot, it'll be practically impossible for ShoWTimE to break it. So he needs to prevent them from going up towards the high ground. Now High Templar are indeed joining over here. Stasis Ward once again. Army is still split though, because he doesn't really know exactly how many Zerg units are going to be running by. Okay. Nicely done right here by ShoWTimE. Yep. He cannot keep that Zerg army at bay forever, but... SHIN is already preparing, though. Fleet Beacon coming up right now. Fleet Beacon together with a Stargate, but he's already preparing Nidus Network to probably try and maybe Nidus over here in the back or over here in the corner. Lurkers in the main base right now would be really tough to break. ShoWTimE currently maxed, so he can't really make carriers or Tempest at this point either. But obviously Vipers are a dangerous counter to those as well, and here's another couple of feedbacks. SHIN will be happy trading out Road Ravager at this point for better units. There's the Nidus Network going down on a natural expansion. ShoWTimE did lose some supply, so at least he can afford warping in 5 Zealots like that and deflect the worm. Wonder if the abduction actually is bad there in the end. Mothership is coming up. Luckily for us, that's a unit we never see abducted. Yeah. Yeah, no, that unit... It always lives. Every game. Never is there 300 minerals and 300 gas down the drain. Alright, ShoWTimE is gonna have to deflect this army. I think it's coming in from an angle, though, that he has not seen. Nope, he's gonna see it right now for the very first time. Lurkers move very far forward, but I think the position is good enough. ShoWTimE needs to hold on to this base. Blinding Cloud forces this Protoss army further forward. Lurkers kill a lot of those Templar. We do have a bunch of the Disruptors, though, coming in from the back. This concave is turning into a circle at this point, and there might just be barely enough Protoss to hold on. Can he get a Viper as well for his troubles? I mean, that was actually best case scenario, I think, for ShoWTimE, considering he didn't see it. The main problem right now, though, for the German Protoss is the remax. SHIN has smashed his piggy bank. He can only really afford a handful of really good units, but he's gonna have an awful lot of stuff. So ShoWTimE took a nosedive right there as far as the supply count goes. He's gonna need a minute or two to rebuild. If he's given that minute, his army will ultimately be better than that of the Zerg. SHIN knows it, so he shoves forward immediately. Disruptors, no! Oh my god. Disruptor's just taking a little camping trip in the bottom left-hand corner. Oracle mispositioned as well, and that is pricey for somebody who needs to be buying time. Well, maybe the Mama Ship can provide that, though. Yeah. Good storm. It's also cloaking the units underneath. There's an Overseer here in the back, though, and that is still providing vision. Mothership ultimately ends up going down, and I think with these inefficient trades, yes, that's gonna be the end for ShoWTimE for this series. He barely gets defeated by SHIN, who played an incredible set of games. I'm honestly very impressed with the way that SHIN was playing here. The first couple games were a little but then the last couple of matches we saw, they were absolutely amazing. So, to clarify, for the EWC, there were still 2 slots available, and that's why this specific tournament was played, for the Esports World Cup. In the upper bracket finals, well, like you can see here, SHIN ends up winning 4-3 over ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE then dropped down to the lower bracket finals, where he met Bunny. And after this very long series, he had to play another best-of-7 series against Bunny, who he actually won against 4-0 in the end. So, long story short, both ShoWTimE and SHIN managed to qualify. Pretty sick.